Well, Jana is our speaker today, and Jana was my very first friend when I moved to California. We stayed with you in Bill my very first time I came to California. You were my first friend. And she has been a gift to my life ever since. She walked me through raising my crazy children, through all the hard seasons, through ministry here at ABF, and we've had a whole lot of real and honest conversations. I can't tell you how many times I've been able to pour my heart out to Jana, and she's always responded with wisdom, encouragement, and so much truth. Jana has a genuine gift of love for people. So many of you are here today because of that. She serves so faithfully, reflecting the heart of Jesus. Today, we get the privilege of hearing from Jana, her story and her journey. She is someone that I am continually inspired by, and I will always look up to, literally. I was waiting for it. It's my joy to welcome Jana Berry.
Thank you. Because I'm tall, I might just do this. Thank you.
See, there is a height difference.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you. Thank you for your kind words. Good morning. Thank you for being patient, too. Passcode. My daughter's so proud of me. She's like, Mom, you're not doing paper? It's 1987. I remember going to the hairdresser and telling her, I'm going to my 10-year high school reunion. I thought that was so old. Can you make my hair really big and full? She said, oh yeah. I'm gonna make your hair so big, you're not even gonna be able to fit out that doorway. I think she came through on her promise. Bill has to lean back to get out of the way of the big hair. We came to this church in 1983. We've been here 43 years. We've raised our two daughters, Summer and Sandy, here at the church, and they joined in the Awana Tuesday night kids program. And guess what? Now Bill and I are serving with the Awana Sparkies, listening to our grandkids, Kate and Avery, recite their scripture memory verses. We're out there in the game circle, running around, playing shipwrecked, red light, green light. How sweet is that? So when thinking about what I wanted to share today, I wondered, do I have any wisdom I could share? Of course, there's little phrases of wisdom in conversation on all kinds of topics I love to spout out. If we're talking about marriage, I say men are easy, sex, and a sandwich. Right? If we're talking about parenting, I say the only reason you have kids is to have grandkids. Who cares about the kids? When you have daughters, they have no qualms about asking their mother to watch their kids for weeks at a time. Sometimes my fridge would be stuffed with breast milk. One time at 10 o'clock at night, my Ring camera alert went off. I looked down at my phone, and there's Pax, my 3-year-old grandson, outside on the front porch. The door had been locked long after I put the little munchkins to bed. I know. Listen to this, Summer. My wisdom in watching grandkids, return them alive. The other one I like is what happens at grandma's stays at grandma's. If we're talking about adult children parenting their own kids, I follow the pearl of wisdom. Shut up and put the welcome mat out. Such wise advice. Now that my own kids are raising their own families. But as I consider the best pearls of wisdom God has given me, I want to share 3 with you today. The pearl of gratitude, the pearl of perseverance, and the pearl of peace. I really think that most of them have come and been formed during times of trial and uncertainty. But first, please nerd out with me for a moment as I share with you how a real pearl is actually made. It's interesting. The construction of a pearl is made by inserting a little piece of sand or irritant into an oyster. Over time, the oyster builds a callus around the grain of sand that eventually turns into a pearl. When an irritant or parasite gets inside the oyster, it can't get rid of it. An average pearl can take up to 7 years to form. It's also one of the strongest biomaterials we know of, and of course, it's beautiful. I heard a quote by Martin Luther King. Every Christ follower needs 3 things to grow: Bible study, prayer, and trials. I don't know about you, but I prefer the first 2. But God, in his love, doesn't waste the trials. Gradually, I've learned during the trials to rely on God's sovereignty and know that my peace is dependent on the character of God, not my circumstances. Dallas Willard has a great definition of peace. Peace is the rest of will that results from the assurance about how things will turn out. Wow, the rest of will. Don't we all want that? I can definitely see that the trials in my life have shaped my story. Everyone has a story. We don't always get the story we want. Sometimes we want someone else's story. But God, I believe, sovereignly allows and redeems our story, including the trials we go through, for his purposes. Some of the sweetest things I have come to know about God have come during the darkest, most painful times in my life. In 2010, my husband shared a values exercise with me that he uses with his clients. You start with 52 value cards, and you end up with only the 5 values that are most important to you. My top values at that time were health, family, friendship, helping others, and challenges. I wrote them down and posted them in my kitchen, where I could look at them regularly and try to live in alignment with them. Looking back, it's one of those questions I seriously am going to ask God when I get to heaven. Lord, was the next 5 years of my life the most difficult ever because I picked the values card challenges? Did you take away my very once healthy body because I valued health? We'd been studying the book of Job in my community Bible study around that time, and looking back, it made me wonder, was there a conversation, Lord, that went something like this between you and the enemy? You know that happy-go-lucky servant of yours, Jana? What if I gave her some real challenges? Do you think she would trust you? In the years that followed, my faithful, God-fearing mom would refer to this time as our family storm. So ladies, buckle up. I'm going to drink something. Before I start on this, you guys buckle up. First, my healthy dad, who was still jogging in his 70s, had a stroke that left half his body without feeling. A few months later, my sister-in-law, Ellen, was diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer, and sadly, we lost her 3 years later. But it had only been 4 months after Ellen's diagnosis that her husband, my brother Gordon, was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and given only 6 months to live. 1 year later, my mom, Nancy, was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. In August of 2013, my mom, my dad, and my brother, Gordon, were all at Los Robos Hospital at the same time. You can see in that picture, I'm leaning over next to my mom because my dad was on the 3rd floor. I took to the emergency room 3 different family members 5 times in 12 days. Believe me, it was a lot. We had a close friend who was the hospital administrator, Greg, at the time, who jokingly said he was going to see to it our family got a discounted family stay rate. I'm an RN, and being that one of my values is helping people, I spent a lot of time at the bedside. A week after the time in the emergency rooms, I developed a random, inexplicable, weird feeling in my sit bones. Not thinking much of it, I kept up my usual exercise and activities, and a few months later, after hiking, something in my lower back went haywire. For days, then months, I couldn't sit without pain. Funny story, I remember we were all meeting for a family dinner at El Cholo in Santa Monica. And when we pulled up to the valet, the attendant courteously opened the passenger door, and my husband leans over to say, "My wife's in the back, open the hatch." You remember that? Over the next few years, I saw 7 physical therapists, had 3 MRIs, met with neurologists, orthopedists, chiropractors, pain management doctors, acupuncture, every treatment under the sun. I tried Pilates, private training, different medications. I felt like my whole day was consumed with trying to stay out of pain. Ice packs, cold pools, massages. I would beg God to cure me. My mom died a little over a year after her diagnosis. Sadly, 2 months before my daughter Sandy's wedding. My mom and I were so close. This was devastating to me. She was in the delivery room when Sandy was born, and I desperately wanted her to be at the wedding, and I begged God not to take her. But in my mom's own words, it wasn't to be. 1 week before we lost my mom, my sister Lisa felt a lump in her breast. The next week, my mom's oncologist confirmed that my sister had a malignant breast tumor and would need chemo and radiation. Lisa moved in with me so I could take care of her during her chemo. I was planning my mom's memorial service, a wedding for my daughter, and also taking care of my sister. The ongoing stress greatly contributed to my back problems. Just remembering all this makes me weary. Enough already, you must be thinking, when is she going to stop? I don't tell you all this to make you feel sorry for me or make you feel like I was some kind of superwoman. That was not the case. I was mentally, emotionally, and physically broken. I was diagnosed with clinical anxiety and lost 15 pounds. And I'm pretty skinny already, right? I know there was a connection between the anxiety in my mind and the gnawing pain in my body. One of the pearls God gave me as I went through this avalanche of trials was the pearl of gratitude. I learned it's still possible to give thanks and trust God in the midst of the worst storms. An expanded version of James 1:2 says, "Consider it all joy, my brothers and sisters, when you fall into various trials. Be assured that the testing of your faith through experience produces endurance, leading to spiritual maturity and inner peace. And let endurance have its perfect result and do thorough work so that you may be perfect and completely developed in your faith, lacking in nothing." There's a water tower hike near my house with a beautiful view where I often walk up to. I talk to God, I play my praise songs. These times of focusing on God's goodness were and still are so healing to my mind, body, and spirit. I heard it said that anxiety is a result of envisioning the future without God. When I envisioned my future at that time, I wondered, what if my pain never goes away? What if the numbness and tingling in my feet gets worse and I can't walk anymore? But I stopped. I did not allow my thoughts to linger in the future. I remember the promise of God's continual presence. I'm trying to learn and discipline myself to give thanks in all things. The Lord sovereignly allowed my pain to keep me dependent on His grace and comfort. That season of pain lasted for about 3 years. I see how God sent me so many wonderful people in my life who helped me through it, driving me up to Santa Barbara to the wedding venue, multiple times filling my refrigerator with food, crying and praying with me. I tried so hard and long to fix it, the pain. And I tried so hard and long to fix the pain on my own, and I will never know how it came or why it left. But I'm grateful the Lord got me through it. I read that a grateful heart that springs forth in joy is not acquired in a moment. It's the fruit of 1,000 choices. It's a godly habit and pattern that over time becomes a new muscle in our spiritual makeup. I have found that to be so true. 2 Corinthians 12:9 was posted during that time in my kitchen. But he said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. For when I am weak, then I am strong." Today, my brother Gordon has been healed of pancreatic cancer. He's going on year 14 of his life since diagnosis. And if you're not familiar with this type of cancer, living through it is unheard of. Our family oncologist, Dr. Ashuri, says he's going to die, but it won't be of pancreatic cancer. My sister Lisa fully recovered from breast cancer. We celebrated a meaningful memorial service for my mom. We also came together as a family to share in the joy of Sandy's wedding. The Lord was with us. His presence gave us peace and even joy in the midst of our wilderness experiences. And he reminded us of the promise in the future with him, where there will be no more sorrow, no more pain, and God himself will wipe away every tear. Another difficult season that lasted for years came to its conclusion recently when I lost my dear lifelong friend, Joanne. We met about 30 years ago in a play group when our kids were little. Joanne and I walked our neighborhoods every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. for 20 years. We literally and figuratively walked through life together. Joanne had a huge heart for people, adventure, and fun. Years ago, when we were young moms, Jo started inviting groups of women to her beautiful mountain home in Shaver Lake for themed weekends. These weekends were quite the production. There was a biker chick night where we wore bandanas and muscle tees. We brought cigarettes, played pool, blasted Creedence Clearwater. There was a 50 nights where we had hula hoops, bubblegum blowing contests, 70s disco night. We even had a Titanic theme. A friend's husband was a cinematographer on the real movie Titanic, and my friend Patty hauled up tons of china that was used on the set. These productions went on for 10 years, and some of the fondest memories in my life where I've laughed the hardest were on these girls' trips. Sadly, they came to an end. It was back in 2006. This was 7 years before our family storm. On one of our morning walks, Jo complained of bloating and a belly that even sit-ups didn't help. Sadly, at 49 years old, Joanne was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. It was out of the blue, such a shock. The prognosis was very poor, and only 15% of people stage 4 ovarian cancer survived 5 years. So around that same time, we were invited by Joanne to join a life group with people that were in the same stage of life we were. The support from this group was incredible and has been life-giving. I had the privilege and the grief to walk with Joanne for almost 20 years through her treatments, her surgeries, her remissions. I didn't just accompany her in this. I learned as I watched her persevere. I was inspired by her attitude to keep living in spite of so much uncertainty. She lived each day to the fullest and counted each day as a gift. Jo miraculously ended up living 19 years. Isn't that neat? She told me that the mindset of surrendering to what God had sovereignly allowed to come into her life was key. One of her favorite verses was Matthew 7:7. Keep on asking and you will receive what you ask for. Keep on seeking and you will find. Keep on knocking and the door will be open. Joanne lived this out. Her example passed on to me the pearl of perseverance. This helped me years later when I faced my own battle with cancer. Are we sick of cancer yet? Because we definitely were. But here we go again, 10 years after our family's storm, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I remember thinking, oh great, now it's my turn, time to call the family oncologist. Everyone in our family has had cancer. My mom, my dad, my sister, now me. When I faced a double mastectomy, Joanne became my bosom buddy. She's the one I went to for advice on how to handle fear of the unknown. I vividly remember on one of our walks, Joe saying, Jana, life is like a book. Our story has already been written. We are just turning the pages. It made me think about that we don't always get the story we want, but we're not as good story writers as God. What was key to her unique journey was her ability to surrender ultimately to God's story writing above her own. At the very beginning of finding out I had cancer, I remember praying, Lord, I want to go through this battle in your power and strength. I don't want to revert to the anxiety that triggered the physical pain from years prior. And this time, something was different. Instead of the intense anxiety that I'd felt in the past, the Lord replaced that with the pearl of peace. He blessed me with so much love and support. Our life group friends all prayed for me the night before my surgery. So many people brought me delicious meals. I remember having Easter brunch with my family 5 days after my mastectomy, drainage tubes under my dress. That ugly dress was the only sack I had to cover up my drainage tubes. But all my grandkids were all around me. Through it all, the losses, the diagnoses, the uncertainty, Jesus has been steady, faithful, and present. The hard times in my life have resulted in pearls. The pearls I've shared with you today, gratitude, perseverance, peace, aren't the only ones. God has given me more pearls as well. Trust, surrender, perspective. A friend shared a great saying with me I love. A test for your testimony, a mess for your message, and a trial for your triumph. I've had my share of tests, messes, and trials, but God didn't waste any of my pain. He's using it all for good in my life. He has given me a testimony, a message, and even triumphs. No matter what I'm facing, I know He'll be there to walk through it with me. I'm confident if you put your trust in Jesus, He will keep His promises. Recently, Bill and I took a fabulous hiking, biking, rafting trip to Chile in the region of the lakes and volcano area, and then we flew south to Patagonia. I had marked on my calendar March 29th because it was the 1-year anniversary my friend Joanne went to heaven. I wanted to spend some time in some way to honor her. And I woke up and I saw a tiny bit of light coming through the window curtains. And I thought I'd go outside and thank God for Joe's life. I considered thanking God for my cozy little bed, but I just had this feeling that I needed to go outside and look up in the heavens. I walked the shoreline of the fjord in front of our hotel and had a little cry session, remembering what an awesome and amazing friend God had given me. My heart was mixed with grief and gratitude. Looking up, I smiled to see faint colors appearing. Within minutes, this was in the sky. The biggest, brightest, most complete rainbow I had ever seen. God speaks through us, through creation. This was more than a God wink. This was, I see you, Jana. I love you. And remember all my promises. One promise that I hold on to is from Isaiah 43:2, where the Lord says, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. Through the rivers, they will not overwhelm you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame shall not consume you. I know I'm not the only one who has lived through hard seasons. My prayer for you is that my message will encourage you and remind you of the pearls that you can hang on to during your story and God's promises that you can hold on to during your journey. I chose this song, Dancing on the Waves, for you.